Hello everyone. I hope everything's working. So chat's been pretty lively already. So welcome to everyone who's here. I mean, Chef and Auntie, of course, and oh, Luna. So yeah, quite some people here already. This lecture is a little bit of an I always get, let's say, triggered by stuff that happens to my students or in Nordic or Dojo games. Like, so when I do lectures, it's like what's on my mind at the time. So you'll very often see um, what I'm working on with my private students, or some theme that's occurred in some recent Nordic or Dojo games, and the particular thing that's been, let's say, grinding my gears recently has been resignation, because of a recent Nordic or Dojo game. And what I wanted to run through this lecture, first of all, I want to go through a couple of games where I think resignation happened a little bit early. And resignation is a topic that is a little bit. I actually talked to some people about this very recently because I was talking. Well, you should basically never resign. That's how I think, or like not never, but you should resign very, very, very late. But some people say, well, I don't like playing games that I'm losing, or that I don't enjoy it. And that's another perspective that you can take, right? So, I if you just don't enjoy playing losing positions and you'd rather move on, I guess that's understandable. Yeah, as someone who likes winning a lot and really dislikes losing, I don't identify with that. But some people think in such a way. But in any case, this lecture is made under the premise that winning the game is like tantamount. Like, I don't care how I win. I want to win. That's how I think, right? And that's the type of thinking that gets you to eventually be quite strong, in my opinion, because you'd be surprised at how many games you win that that you don't deserve to win. I also hear so this is Anti. I also hear comments like, I don't deserve to win this game anymore. Yeah, I can see that, and those comments are. It doesn't, like, if your opponent screws up a game that you don't deserve to win, they don't deserve to win, like, even more, if you know what I mean. Not very directly connected to whether turning the game around is actually possible or not. Exactly, that's the important thing. It's whether turning the game around is an option, right? So the first thing I want to do is I want to run through a couple of Nordic or Dojo games, and that I remember where, I think the game could have been played on for longer, and maybe talk about what could have been done. And then the lecture is going to take a little bit of a different turn, I guess. But we'll see about that. So okay, this game is the most recent game that I reviewed that was, it was an interesting game from a Moyo perspective. So I think maybe the players will recognize this game. Very recent game I reviewed. I'm only going to go quickly through the game so you see what's going on. Oh, I still have the markups from my Nordic Dojo text review. I removed some of them. But the main point is, let's go over to let's go to move 70. So, which is what I had in my notes. So, what I want to do here is discuss a little bit how how white fell behind here. For reference, by the way, the level of the players I think is 4 and 5Q. Black I think is 5Q and white is 4Q. And white has a big moyo here. White's probably worse according to the computer, but this type of moyo is very interesting, right? You can very often find that unexpected things happen when you have such a majority in strength. And even though I think black should be able to invade, it's not a guarantee. So black invaded, of course. And, white now has to find a way to attack. I'm going to kind of speed through this narrative because that's not the topic of the lecture. I just want to maybe denote the conditions that led to, let's say, a premature resignation. So, white plays r6, and black gets this floating group. That's actually, black played this very nicely, I must say. So white, did some attempts to attack, but black actually handled these very well. Like, this was a good game from black, in fairness. And, eventually, if we speed up a little bit through the game, you'll see that it's actually, black's gonna live inside white's moyo relatively uneventfully. So just so you get a feeling for how this game has gone on, and maybe why, white's definitely behind here. I mean, white had this very promising moyo, which, could be used for some fun stuff at some point. But black has just lived in there, and then white finds it very hard to really develop any, let's say, ideas of how to continue the game. Because if we count on points, I think this is this would be a good moment to evaluate the game, because the fight has sort of finished. Black has lived. Or, okay, if white... I mean, white could, technically speaking, try to locally kill, but this is suicidal. Black's just gonna pull out the stones, and, I mean... So black has, practically speaking, lived. And we can even go a few moves more forward. And actually, maybe at this point, I'd ask the audience, what are some ideas for white? Or actually, what is the evaluation of the game? So the game's worse for white, but how much worse is it? And what kind of ideas would you have as to how to recover? And I must say, in white's defense, because white, the lecture topic kind of gives this away. White didn't take too long to resign from this point on, though he didn't resign directly. But to be fair to him, this game is tough. This game is a hard one. It's not so easy. Try to get all the center. Delicious dumpling. Hello. So you're thinking maybe about moves like h12. Not recoverable, says Zogi Zogi. Yeah. Oh, hello there, Niche, welcome. So we have some ideas of trying to keep the... Okay, so h12. So a lot of people are saying h12, right? And h12 carries the idea of basically drawing a line here and being like, mine. That's the impression I get. Oh, hello there, Cadspend. Oh, and yeah, Baby Shamble. Yeah, lots of people. Welcome, everyone. So white carries this idea of just claiming everything, right? And let's actually take a second. Well, first of all, let's exchange this so that white has no shape problems. Actually, this creates some liberty shortages here. This game's tough. Okay, fine. Let's ignore the weaknesses on the lower side. They're not that important. Let's just play h12. So far, white has 30 and Komi. Yeah, so let's take a quick moment to count. So I'm gonna... So black has territory. Actually, this isn't black's territory. The J17 stone isn't black's territory yet, because white can kind of pull it out and make some trouble. So if we're being optimistic for white, let's do this, and this. And maybe it's like this line and this line here and here. And within these confines, black has about... So black has about 65 points. Oh, someone's suggesting cut at L4. Well, that someone is Anti. Cut at L4. Oh, cut at L4 is pretty smart. That's actually nice. I had missed it. Yeah, Anti's good. So the idea of this cut is that if black behaves like this, then black dies. If black behaves like this, then black also dies locally. I mean, here black would be able to fight back. But the whole idea is that if black plays here, now you exchange this. And then black can't live by playing L6 instead. That's a nice touch. I'd completely missed that. Also during the review. Like, in the review, I actually suggested that white plays Tenuki and just ignores, I think. Yeah. N17. N17 is also an idea. because it takes black's points. I always consider something like R14 if it's possible to endure and catch up little by little. Okay, yeah, so some ideas here. So I'm gonna say right now I counted black at like 65 points or so. That's the total count at the moment. And if we take a moment to count for white, white's gonna have like this. White, has like, I guess, behind this line, and this stone isn't really captured, so we can't count it. And there's this ko. But actually, the reason why black will probably never start this ko in this position is kind of the topic of the lecture. So let's leave that for a second and assume that this is white's point. I mean, in theory, black can start this type of ko in the future, but there's a reason black won't in this board position. So okay, let's say we sort of count. I mean, S4 is white's center, so we can count this line, this line, this line, and then it's... So white has about 30 points plus Komi, right? So as Antti suggested. So white's behind some, 30 to, yeah, about 30 solid points, but white has two advantages. It's white's move, and white has more influence. Of course, white doesn't have enough of more influence. It's an influence with weaknesses, right? I mean, these black stones are really annoying to white. But I think the game is actually not hopeless. I think if you put this into a computer, my guess it's going to be like a minus 15 point differential. And minus 15, it's twice Komi. It's not the end of the world. So white has some options of how to recover, which have already been suggested, and we'll go through them a little bit. I feel like I would never want to defend the white stones in the middle and try to goad black into committing some attack against them that might backfire. And that's somehow the idea behind a move like H12, right? H12 is an interesting kind of move. Like, H12 is the kind of move that says, mine. Right? That's, if you're losing, this is the kind of mindset that you might go into. And the reason why H12 is a kind of, is the kind of move you might want to play here, and some people picked up on it, is that this introduces, and a lot of you were probably watched last week's lecture with Matthias, or watched the YouTube video or something. He did a lecture on uncertainty. And uncertainty is going to be really important if we're going to talk about recovering a game. Because if you're losing and then everything becomes certain... Oh yeah, okay, 3 weeks ago, okay. If we're talking about when you're losing a game, if everything settles, if the dust all settles and what you would expect to happen happens, you're going to lose. So it's a good time to consider introducing uncertainties into the game where neither you or your opponent knows what's going on. And I think H12 is the kind of move, and I like that a lot of people picked up on this move, is kind of a nice move, because, black could get scared here. I mean, black certainly has a lot of options in the center, because white has some shortage of liberty problems with his stones, and, if black just had this liberty, right, you could even just Atari here and capture the stones. Well, it's a ko still, but point being. So there's actually a lot of aji in the center. So this move H12 is a very aggressive move that is maybe over the line, maybe not, but it's very challenging to black. Black has to think about what to do here. Because, in a theoretical world where we just close everything, white's actually fine. So black has to work here. So this is the kind of idea that white might pull off. H12 was what I expected. I would answer with L12 or so. Oh, L12's actually a good compromise, because you're leading. So Sander Baduk was black here. And if you're leading and your opponent's like mine, this is a good way to not go too far, but also make a good reduction move. But now as white, I'm thinking about moves like J14. And J14 has some really nasty ideas. I mean, am I soon gonna go down here? And if you try to capture, am I going to, play this move? You know, there's lots of aji, and if you were to defend it, then nyam, swallow. You know, your turn to live, and you know, probably black can live in here. Actually, but black will live in here. But this isn't easy to handle, right? I think Sander Baduk, who was black, can probably concur. This is not like a piece of cake. Hardly a one game. And that's the thing about positions that are really bad, and I'm sure that white felt really bad in this game position, because, I mean, black just lived solidly inside your moyo, right? But you can always find ways to create uncertainty and go. Or not always, I mean, when you can't, that's when you resign. But this board is actually still full of uncertainty. Certainly, white is worse, but I've won much more lost games against players my level, right? Much, like, I'm gonna show you much worse games that I've won. And that's why actually this game still has a lot of venom in it. And here we come to what white did. White actually just defended at h4, which is probably not optimal. So even if we don't find the move at k4 from a we're losing perspective, h4 is not the type of move we want to play. Because, okay, even if black can cut, even if black can... well, black won't really cut here. Black is more going to... this cut is annoying, but... I don't see a way for black to kill anything immediately. So if white can kind of hold everything, then... You know, this is just, like, random sample variation. If white... Like, white should try and keep up the pressure. Of course, finding this cut is a little bit more advanced, so I'm not asking white to do that. But rather than lose a move here, white really needs to keep up the pressure. Like, h4 is the type of move that you play when you're winning, because you want to reduce the amount of uncertainty on the board. In here, there's a cutting point which black can kind of use, but you're not quite sure how. Then don't defend, right? Just don't waste a move on it. And white played a little bit passively here, given the situation. And then we arrive at this move, j11, which black played. And, you know, black is probably already quite a bit better after white h4, because black doesn't... It's much harder for white to create uncertainty once black has a full other move on the board. But nevertheless, I actually still think that white can create some uncertainty. And I'd be curious to see what the audience thinks. Maybe now it's too far, maybe it's not. The other thing I'm thinking for white, so earlier I think it was Yakago, right, who suggested r14. And, you know, r14 kind of carries the idea, let's just take some points and then play, I don't know, just something on the side and try to win on points. Just one thing to do. Exactly. Yeah. The thing with J11, I mean, Sander actually played a very nice game. But in J11, in my opinion, is strategically a bad decision. And the reason is that white is still going to... Yeah, white's still going to close his eyes and play h12. Right? And, I mean, what the person who's behind here would say is, what does J11 matter? I just swallow bigger. I mean, and this... Yeah, so... I think everyone agrees. And this is actually an easy way to mess up the position. I mean, you can still very easily envision certain variations where... Oh, this is already getting very interesting. So black can't really get that because white just pushes through. And... Like, this is a really dumb variation. I'm just absolutely just showing a sample. You push through, and then, oh, suddenly black is cut. But, I mean, black is probably fine. In this variation, black is fine. Black's just gonna win the Liberty race, probably. So, never mind. This it's not quite so clear yet. But this looks interesting. So, let's play this one first. And, you know... Now... You know, there's... This one is harder. Admittedly, it's harder. And I think if black plays something like k13, the problem for white is that you can't just cut through and compromise because you're losing, right? I feel like J13 makes H12 even more clearly a good move. Well, it more clearly makes H12 the only move, but it is true that after a move like K13, it's hard for white to proceed. Like, it is a tough position for white. So white needs to find something interesting now. Something I'm considering is maybe now we cut. Maybe now we cut. Type of thing. So if black captures, we get some outside stuff. And then like here or something and try to link up. Or threaten to play K14 next. So some ideas for white. It's already tougher, right? But the only move for white here is H12. You have to play H12 here. There's like no other move on the board. I guess it's more that my eye is drawn to the elephant eye, but wasn't too strongly drawn to H12 on its own. Yeah, I mean, here it's very easy because you're basically poking the elephant eye. But even so, H12 was the right move strategically for white, in my opinion. Now, what actually happened this game is that white resigned. At this position, white resigned. And I'm gonna say that I understand it here, much more than before white played H4, because it is much harder to create uncertainty than in the previous position. But let's keep in mind that white is probably still not behind by more than 20, right? And you know, 20 feels like a lot, but if you play endgame somewhat better than your opponent, you can get back half of that. It's not that far. So 20 points is actually not that far. So if white just keeps playing, let's even say, let's cut here, just again to make a point. Actually, J18 is another really good source of uncertainty that you need to look at in this type of position, because black will not find it so easy to capture this stone. You know, if black plays, I guess, here, then white has some interesting cuts, right, as I mentioned. So, you know, if you capture, then white gets extra centi moves, and your stones are actually kind of getting out. Kind of, right? They're hard to kill. And if you get greedy and play here, then white can play this move and make Miai out of A and B. So actually, there's still a lot of stuff that white can do in this type of position because of uncertainty here, and sometimes when you're losing, it is true that you just need to be patient. It's move 117. Lots of things can happen. I think it's, even if it's not clear, move 117 is often a little bit too early. Because it's not like white died catastrophically with anything. White's just behind. And, you know, I do want to say that some people, when they play the ultimate objective is not necessarily to win, or like it is to win, but I've actually talked to some people that are like, oh yeah, I don't deserve to win this game. I don't feel like playing such a position anymore where I'm just overplaying. I don't, and you know, I kind of get that. So if your ultimate objective is not to win necessarily, then, you know, you can, I guess some people resign early and that's fine. As a competitive player, if I resign, then I don't advance to the next round and I lose out on prize money, and I like winning games, you know? So resigning is just no. But there we are. So this game was just an interesting case that I wanted to look at. I tend to flip it around. I want to make my opponent work for their win. Yeah, exactly. So what Antti says here, I think, is very accurate. Something that I've found when I'm behind is that a burden's lifted off of you. Like, when the game is even, you can basically be reasonable and you know, try and play well. As soon as you're behind, there's this, especially when you're desperately behind. You know, if you're a little bit behind, you still have to be reasonable to an extent, right? You have to graduate how much you are unreasonable, and you try to create uncertainty. The moment you're really behind, you can become a caveman, you know, or a cave person, I guess. So you can get very, very, like, very, 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 very testy with your opponent, and that's actually kind of fun. So it's a sort of weight that's lifted off of your shoulders when you're really behind. That's how I see it. And actually, I don't mind playing from behind. I actually quite enjoy it, because I think especially when I was a cave person. Yeah. I mean, when I was even a bit younger, even more than now, I guess. I was a super aggressive player, and I loved these situations where I'm behind and I can create lots of uncertainty and just. So returning to those roots is kind of fun. Okay, so the next example I want to show is a little bit of a different one, but it's also, let's say, it's another important part of just not resigning. I think that's why I find games against stronger players more relaxed than against weaker players. There's less pressure. It's like you're yeah, okay. On Fox, I think some people play ridiculously in the opening because they enjoy winning lost games. I think you give Fox players too much credit. So, do you think there's a difference between losing by 20 and losing by 5, trying to lose by less? I think the score doesn't matter. I think the way you lost matters a little bit. But the score itself is not necessarily indicative of that, let's say. But yeah. Najee, if you're having problems with audio and video synchronization, probably reloading will help. It helps for me, but I don't know if, it will for you. I get super uninterested in playing if I fall behind or make a big mistake, so I'd sooner resign and start a new game instead. Yeah, this is something that some people have expressed to me. And, I get that. So if your premise is that you just enjoy playing games where you're not badly behind, then that's fine. I don't want to. What I will say is that you'll improve less and you'll improve more slowly. Probably, in my opinion. But I also get that some people just want to play games they enjoy, so I don't, the premise of this lecture is that you would like to win every game to the fullest extent you can. So, Okay, so this next game, this one we're gonna speed past. This one's from a Nordic Dojo game a while ago, but it surfaced when I, thought about it. So let's go. There was some crazy co-stuff, and like, let's go over here. This game was crazy. I had a lot of fun reviewing it. Okay, so we get here, and after like lots of codes and lots of like messing around and stuff, we reached a position where, maybe the audience can confirm this, but according to my counting, this is a very close game. So I think the game is kind of close, and it's Black's turn. Also, this game I think is around 5Q level in terms of level. And is this my game so old? Yeah, you remember? Yeah, you're Black here. You won this game. So yeah, I think White is 6Q and Baby Shamble is 5Q in this game. So Black played J18, which is a nice endgame Tetsuji, or like general connection Tetsuji that is nice for you to keep in mind, in general, for, all of you. Because after White Ataris, Black goes down, White can't capture. So it's a nice endgame Tetsuji. White protects, White connects, and this move, it's not the point of the lecture. This move is not necessary because Black actually has enough liberty to just do this, or something like that. But okay, Black played a little bit passively here. That's okay. And we arrive to this position. And here. And here White blundered. Yes, White made a strange blunder. And in what is still a very close endgame, White played a move here, and it just got captured with these stones. So, in terms of the end game, this is a catastrophic loss because, let's go over here and we connect. Black actually is going to have to fill in both of these liberties to continue the game. So it's actually, at this stage of the game, that's a pretty catastrophic loss. But I think what we should do at this stage of the game is quickly reevaluate before we do anything else. Because when we lose stones that have such a big, like, shock value at this stage of the game, it's very easy to think irrationally, I think. and to just be like, oh, the game's over because I died with something. So I'm gonna maybe ask the audience, actually, what do you think of this game? Let's try and count. So for reference, white has 10 captures and black has 12. So I actually tend to count I usually tend to count, instead of looking at the captures, I just count 2 for white here, 2 for white here. But that's very unreliable when there are co's. So let's just give, so let's say 10 white, 12 black. So these are the stones that each player has captured. And I think it's a good moment to try and reevaluate and see what's going on. I'll count. Basically, Komi only 4 points. Yeah. That's a way to think about it. Yeah. So okay. I've counted. I don't know what the public thinks. Did I forget to count some points? Isn't white ahead? Ah, so I mean, I'm not sure if white's ahead, but we're getting onto something here. So if I count, I don't think white's ahead. But I think the game's actually quite close. So I don't know if people can verify this. I count, about... Oh, black has roughly 70. I count more for black. I definitely count more. Yeah, so I count more along the lines of Sander Baduk. So I count that white has approximately... I have different numbers, but the score difference is the same. Counting is hard, yeah. Yeah, I agree counting is hard because when you're counting, for example, you need to keep in mind what happens if white plays here. Because if black plays this way, then white's gonna wreck you. And then wreck you more than you would like to get wrecked. So, black's gonna play from here, which means white's gonna get this endgame incentive, for example. So, yeah, my counting is that black's ahead by a little... black's ahead by less than 5, but black's ahead. So, I think some people... I counted white has about 80 with Komi, indeed, so a little bit like Sander, and I counted black has about 84 or so. And some people have not quite agreed, but I mean, white's Luna said white 75. I guess I'm assuming without Komi. So we're mostly agreeing. White has about 80, black has about 85. So white's a bit behind, a bit. So we're gonna play. White's gonna play here next. Okay, let's take this off the board. White's gonna play here next. It is black's turn, but 5, well, it's not even 5, I'd say it's a little less than 5. Less than 5 points can very easily be recovered. I mean, if I were white here in a game, I would play this out. Because, for example, I mean, in my counting, I counted these points for black. These are not black's points anymore once white captures here. Black has to fill N19 in. Black's points are actually also reduced once and if I get this cut in. So endgame has a lot of small details which you can pilfer. Like, you can pilfer your opponent's points, pretty systematically in endgame. And the difference is going to end up being much smaller than you think it could be. And potential is going to go the other way. Maybe black will find some Tessujis and get ahead, even more ahead. But this is a game that's playable. Now, what actually happened, as you may have guessed, is that white resigned. And you know, I I understand it from a sense. I know some very strong players. There's this funny story about so 2 years ago, a European friend of mine, Sixtan, was playing in an international tournament and played against an the Australian representative. And the Australian representative was winning, then they died with like, I don't know, like a group of 4 stones, and then they resigned, while being ahead by Comey still. But they just resigned because they lost a group of stones. This is like 7 dan level, 6 to 7 dan level. So some people get this like shock when they something goes wrong when they when anything goes wrong in the game, or not when anything, but when some specific thing goes wrong. And it's important whenever you think you're really losing to make sure, because sometimes when you're really losing, you get emotional about it, and that happens to all of us. So, keeping that in mind is actually quite important. I think I've resigned 2 to 3 games I was winning this month out of about 55. I don't count enough. Well, that's the thing. Well, if you're not sure, then keep playing, right? In my opinion, you have to be extremely sure that you're losing. Not only that you're losing, but also that there's no way to win in order to resign. So resigning is actually a big deal. You have to be very sure you're losing to resign. Clearly, you count too much. Yeah. I mean, I do count too much, I guess. Okay, so this is the first part of the lecture where I discussed a couple of early resignations and what could have been done instead, right? I always get discouraged when I press estimate score and see I'm 40 to 50 points behind. Well, yeah, I think after the game, the score graph shows that I was actually ahead. Don't trust score estimator. Yeah. I don't count enough, so I end up playing games that are probably lost in retrospect. Well, yeah, but that's better than resigning. Much better than resigning. So happens in real life too. Someone goes on a diet and messes up one time and then quits the whole diet. Wow. I guess that's a good comparison, actually. So, okay. This was the first part of the lecture. Now, what I'm going to do now, to prove my point that you should never resign, because it's very easy to say, oh, you should keep playing, you should keep uncertainty on the board. It's very easy for me to, tell you that, but it's harder, of course it's harder to do in the game. So maybe to make my point a little bit, I've collected some of my games, my own tournament games, from the last couple of years. And I've collected like the most against 6 dan players, right? 6 dan EGF players and higher. I've collected like the most lost, please resign, you died with something, you're completely like no chances, go home, resign your 6 dan rank games, which I ended up winning. And first of all, that's going to be kind of it was a trip down memory lane for me, some of these games, preparing for this lecture. But also, I very much intend to kind of go through my thought process of how I tried to mess up the game and I tried to make it hard for my opponent to win. Because I think it's actually a good skill to be able to question how good your opponent really is, how sure they are of their lead, and I think it's actually a good skill to have. So okay. Interestingly, 2 of these games are back-to-back. So I'm going to show you, these games are, I played these in the Budapest tournament of 2019, already like a year and a half ago, I guess, or, like 14, 15 months ago. And this is against Nikola Mitic, who was, I think, 7 dan rated at the time. Now he's gone back to 6 dan. It happens. Hard to keep 7 dan rating. And I'm black. So I'm going to quickly run through the game, and then we'll get to the stage where I'm like in huge trouble. And okay, so I played Moyo because I play Moyo. Well, now I play Moyo a little bit less, but yeah. I mean, oh god. Yeah. This is old me, all right. And I mean, I still like playing like this. I just don't always do it. So what a great master. Yeah. So this is the first part of the game where I sort of messed up. So what I remember here is... Yeah, okay, so I think what I should have done here for black actually goes back a little while after this crosscut. It doesn't matter too much for the purposes of our lecture. I think what I did here was just a mistake. I should have probably just connected here. That's off the top of my head, this is the best thing I can do, at this stage at least. So, you know, if white captures, I can either Tenuki here, make this big dream in the center. That's better than what I did in the game. So what I did in the game was I did this like weird Aji-prone first line connection where, you know, later white's gonna play like here, and I'm running out of liberties everywhere. It's actually kind of unpleasant. But the reason I did this was really funny. Wait, Nicola managed to lose this. Dude, we reviewed this game together, Auntie. And the way that Nicola lost this is, like, outrageous. I mean, actually, the way I managed to win it, I mean, this was pretty... I mean, the thing is, the type of game that arises from this, both players have to make a great effort for this to happen, you know? So, yeah, Nicola managed to lose this. And yeah. Did you win or did he lose? I won. I mean, this is a game where I was completely, like, losing hard, like, unwinnable game, and I ended up winning. So and I want to get to the stage of the game where I'm clearly losing, and I want to talk about a little bit the things I did that maybe were helpful to me in getting back the game. So this is the idea. At the end of the lecture, I have some games where I had winning positions and lost as well. So actually, the reason I had done all of this is that I wanted to crawl on the second line to quote-unquote attack this group. Or like, more than that I thought I could, I just didn't know what else to do. And I didn't want white to just get the easy 0-3 stones. So this is like, I already thought I'm behind, and I was actually trying to increase uncertainty in a way. But, you know, white just plays here. And this group, I mean, this is a wall. This wall isn't getting attacked. So, okay. We continue the game a little bit. And, let's see. Where should I... Okay, so I guess we get here. And white plays k16. And one thing... So the first thing I'd ask is, let's make a little bit of a value judgment here. What's going on? Who's better? And the second thing is, what does black do about it? Because, okay, we're gonna find out black's behind. I don't remember how behind, but it's pretty bad. So let's see. Let's do some counting. So this is like kind of the borders for black where I'm not counting anymore. Seems like it's better for black now than it could have been. Yeah, I mean, black isn't super bad here. Black's bad, though. Black's pretty bad. As I remember it, it was like a pretty terrible position still. And I got very lucky. Like, not very... I didn't get very lucky, but... You know, if my opponent misreads in Byoyomi, well, he misreads in Byoyomi. It happens. But, yeah. So... And probably this is the line of territory. So, okay. So, black has about 56 points. 56, it's actually less than 56, it's a little bit less. The score is kind of even now, secure points anyway. I mean... In very loose terms, yes, I guess. But white has the entire top side that is yet to cash in. And also black has this problem. The upper side is not territory yet, but white actually has some nasty aji here, which is going to end up being a big reduction, so I don't know. My evaluation of the game at the time was that it was pretty bad. Let's see. How do I play here? Do I play this one first and then just push through? I guess something like this exists later, which was a bit annoying, but okay. White, conversely, has... I'm gonna say... I mean, I'm counting white's just ahead anyway. I actually just... I'm not sure I agree with Anti's counting here. So it's like, to me, white has this, or like, this is the line, this is the line, this is the line. And if we count along these lines, white has... Upper right corner. Okay, so the reason I'm giving the upper right corner to black because sorry, to white is, of course, black can live, but if black does live here, then the top side is white's territory definitely. Like if we're it's not realistic, or it is. Okay, let's say realistically speaking, white's gonna keep the top side or the top right, I think. So in my mind, realistically, if you're making an actual estimate of the game, you have to count 15 for white on the top right. And then you basically have to count, 35 for white on the top side, then 5 for white in the center, maybe 6. And in the end, yeah, so in the end, white, according to my counting, has a lead of about Komi, plus potential on the top side, and black has some potential in the center. Black L15 makes more points in the center than invading on the top. That I'm not sure of a way to play. Actually, Yakako mentions what's pretty bad for you. My estimation here was that I'm behind by more than Komi. Like if I just play normally, I lose by more than Komi for sure. That was my... So, I'm actually not sure about something like L15 because I'm thinking about moves such as maybe F9 that are a little bit annoying to black's framework. So, just sample variation, right? Can white maybe play here now and worm in this way, and then worm in this way, right? So I don't know, the center actually seems a little bit small for me, which is actually why I ended up invading on the top side. Okay, so let's go a little bit forward, or like, let's actually decide what black should do here, because some people have suggested L15 will make more points. My evaluation of L15 is that it's not going to win. Like, it's actually increasing certainty. Because remember how, I think Matthias did a NGD Dojo lecture very recently on uncertainty. And I've been talking about how when you're behind, and this game isn't unwinnable. It's not absolutely terrible. It's not quite as bad as the other examples I have. Though it's pretty bad. Like, it's pretty bad. But if we're talking about this... Oh, also, if it helps, I'm in Bioyomi and Nicola has like 15 minutes here. To create uncertainty, give your opponent options, and give your opponent things to worry about. And what happened to me in this position was that I was thinking, okay, if I play this move, which is the kind of move I had in mind, this center is going to kind of evaporate, and then white can just play here. And I mean, these are like 20 points for white that are going to materialize that we weren't counting for him. So this is actually, and this corner, I can always live in this corner, but living in this type of corner is always a Pyrrhic victory because, for example, this move is Sente. So we're going to end up giving this type of endgame as well. So it's very limited endgame gain, actually. M15, so we have a vote for M15. So M15 is okay. So it's sort of, maybe you're trying to build a little bit more assertively. Or... And if white defends, you get more. Oh, M17. Okay, M17. Okay, M17 is more along the lines of what I went for. It's not exactly what I played, but it's what I'm thinking. So here, the sources of uncertainty, in my opinion, are how much will black get in the center, how much will white get on the top side. Those are the two really big sources of uncertainty, and that's actually the thought process behind. Okay, I cut here, and I think eventually. Okay, I played L16, so My first thought was m15, but I'm worried that white will not defend the top side. Huh. White will not defend the top side. I'm very curious about how. I want to play e17. Can you rate that too? E17 anti was actually my next move, I think. I played e17 next. So, yeah. My mind board is only 17 times 17, yeah. So, basically, I was thinking if I just play here, which may be correct, it just settles the board too much. Great minds, etc. Yeah, so, I was thinking along the lines of, I can't let this game settle. I need to keep uncertainty on the board. So I played L16, which is like some random exchange, and I play E17. And if we go forward, I got this shape, which is like if white plays here, I might even play the ko. So, or actually, maybe I can connect. Maybe connecting is okay. But anyway, I can even choose to play the ko. I've warmed into the top side. And if we even go a little bit further, white actually played Hane on the top side. I ended up sacking these two stones to get a group on the outside. But actually with a little bit of Aji involved. And this Aji is actually what ended up winning the game. So, can anyone try to find, in this situation, what Aji black has in the top left corner? At the moment. That black can activate for endgame. And this Aji is kind of subtle, but it's going to be very, very, very helpful eventually. It's going to be more helpful than you think it is. It's going to be fantastically helpful. But yeah, in the short term, I was actually pretty happy with this because I have good endgame prospects in the top left corner. Ko. We make a ko shape. Okay, so we play here. And then what does white do? Well, if white plays a ko, we're happy, right? So we can already make a ko inside white's territory, right? And if white plays e16, right, which avoids ko, then we have this connection, right? So here, here, here. And then, you know, later in the endgame, we're even going to play here and, you know. This is really nice endgame. So, you know, we can choose to connect or we can choose to tenuki, etc., etc. F18 too simple. Yeah, F18. So, the point with F18 is that you need to see that white plays this, but then we connect under. So it's not really a ko, because white has no compunction to take. But the important part is that black's going to get amazing endgame here. Very soon. So I was pretty happy with this, because this is something that annoys white. And the other thing that annoys white is that I took all the points on the top side, if we consider that e18 is next, and also that white doesn't have anything on this side either. And additionally, I actually can still play here later for endgame. I've still ensured this Aji. So here, black has basically not succeeded yet, but black has done really well so far. L14. L14 for black, for white? I'm interested. Black. Yeah, L14 is an interesting local follow-up because we're going to have to make some points in the center. We're going to want to at some point. I would even start with this cut locally because, you know, we can... I mean, white's actually in huge trouble here. White has to basically crawl and then, you know, we actually get even more. Now, the thing is, it is white's turn, so white defended the cut. So, you know, it happens. And, of course, the payment, like, the price of me getting on the top side is that white's going to reduce my center. Oh, I actually ended up playing Q15, and the reason I played Q15 was time Sujis. But, okay. It's time Sujis and also that I wanted this move in center later for endgame, so I judged that this endgame is better than living in the corner, which is a questionable decision, but okay. Anyway. This is the point of the game where I counted, and if I remember correctly, the game is actually fine for me. Like, the game might actually be okay for me if we make this trade. And I'd actually like to confirm that now, because that actually matters for my decision making. Let's see. So So 59. I count 59 for white, roughly. In solid points. Let's see for black. Black's still not doing super well, because as far as I'm counting, white's still ahead by Komi. Even though I'd say that this invasion on the top's actually been a success. J15 Ko too much? J15 Ko is really risky for both players, right? So if black wins it, then suddenly black's getting great influence in the center as well. It's really risky for both. I agree it exists, for sure. I mean, I think in the game, in the short term... Oh no, I actually started with D18. But I actually was thinking of like extending in the center, because the Koaji is a little bit annoying, but yeah. Tatesin, oh hello there. But okay. I think then maybe my judgment of the game was that even if I get F18 in, I'm still losing. And actually, if this is true, that F18 means I'm losing, this is actually pretty important, because even though I stole the entire topside, white managed to reduce enough of my center potential that black's still not necessarily doing well. I think black's doing a little bit better, but yeah. Wait, does D18 work? Yeah, so this is the question. So for reference, I'm in Byoyomi here, and I think my thought process here was that I'm losing if I just play F18, so I pushed for more. And actually, I think my opponent was already getting close to Byoyomi as well. He entered Byoyomi like sometime during this. But the point of D18 is that if white answers, then like in theory, now I'm going to get a few more points, right? So white gets white E16 and... Oh. You want to play here? And kill black? Well, what if white extends? You mean F18? That's what happened in the game. And I was reading this for a while, and I thought this looks really fun. Because there's some corner stuff. There's some corner uncertainty, if you know what I mean. And... I mean... I have... This looks fun, yes. And actually, I think maybe... I'm gonna give you a little bit of a spoiler. I think it sounds really weird, but this group is about to die. Like, all of it. It's about to die. So, yeah. And I think at this point we can agree that if I play here, I'm actually still losing pretty badly. So like this, I'm either gonna have to give... I'm either going to have to give up endgame, the E19 stones, or I'm gonna have to give up Sente. So, you know, even though this is good endgame for black, black's still behind. Pretty badly. Like, Komi, and we're late in the game. So, I started with this move, grabbing for more, and Nicola was like, no, you can't. And I was like, okay. And this is amazing for me, because look at what's happening here. I mean, the level of uncertainty just spiked. Because when white kills in such fashion, the level of options for both players goes up so much. And, you know, I can actually imagine some situations, so I'll go a little bit forward in the game. I actually played some, I guess, time Suji moves, I guess, and now I pulled the trigger, I guess. So, the whole idea here for black is that white's own group has no eyes. It's one of those things where I die with white and die as black. Yeah, I mean, sometimes it happens. So, the whole point here is that white's own group has no eyes. And if we go a little bit forward, white's own group is dying, correct? White has no eyes. And black has a big eye on the inside. So, this... Yeah, now I remember this drama. So this was a complete mess. And this is what I want. I'm behind, I'm completely losing, and suddenly I'm getting a Semidori in his corner. Now, full disclosure, this shouldn't have worked for black. This worked for black because he misread in Byoyomi, which happens. But actually, black should still be bad here. And I think I remember how it happened. So, up until here, white is still okay. And, okay, one of the good things for black about this Semidori is that it's actually not that bad, because if we go... Oh, actually, here... Okay, so if we go here, black has already achieved this, and I was thinking, oh, if I somehow get this move in Sente as well, then I'm actually getting lots of endgame profit here. Lots of it. So, just by virtue of getting this move, that's a pretty big deal. Now, of course, I did lose the Adjiev playing f18, but this actually is not such a high-risk venture for black, because we're playing inside white's territory anyway. A liberty race favors me. But okay. And I think here, white messed up. Yeah, okay, this move was white's final mess up, I think. Or... Yeah, okay, so white misread here. So, basically, what white should do here is play here, as far as I remember, this or jump, and make liberties for the group. And this move also is rather double-edged, because this move exists. So, as black, I was actually starting to read moves like this, which are trying to contain white and take white's liberties, and etc, etc. And actually, after the game, what Nicola told me was that he was reading that, like, he was thinking that he's not actually necessarily ahead anymore if he just plays a Semidori, so he wanted to keep the points. So, it's already a really crazy position, and out of this corner, I somehow managed to create lots and lots of uncertainty, so this was the point. And I think, if you look at this position, it's kind of hard to predict that this mess will arise, because white's just really much better. Even here, now it looks almost even worse, because even if white just gives up most of the endgame, then white's actually still doing well. And just a few moves later, white greeted for points with k18, and then I played here, and then white resigned because he lost the liberty race. So that's kind of unfortunate. That's an unfortunate way to go. So it's like this. I mean, in fairness, we were in 20-second Byoyomi. 20-second Byoyomi is tough, and probably white just misread a liberty. But okay. Whole point is that, 6-dan, 7-dan strength, you would expect this type of thing to not happen, right? You would expect the player who's winning, who has played much better up until this point, I mean, Nicola just played better than me, what can I say? To miss this kind of, liberty race and to end up losing this game. And maybe the point I want to make is that this only happened because I pushed for a lot of uncertainty, and I pushed for a lot of trouble. And that's the thing when you're playing from behind, you need to look for this kind of opportunity. Who did you play against here? I played against Nikola Mitic, he oscillates between 6-dan and 7-dan rating in Europe. So, yeah. I was 5-dan rated at the time. So, yeah. And I'm actually, in retrospect, I'm kind of proud. I mean, this is not, doing, like, dirty robbery of games in this way is, it doesn't really feel bad because I'm used to it. Also, how many times have I lost because of this? It happens all the time. Like, the point is, these games are as lost, if not more, as some of the early resignations we looked at. And I think that one of the beautiful things about Go, especially in Byoyomi, is just how messy it can get sometimes. Like, how much venom is left in some positions where it kind of looks like there's nothing. So that's maybe the cool part. Okay, so the next game is... okay, Byoyomi is the great equalizer. So, okay, the next game is even worse. The next game is, much, much worse. Like, this game was... Okay, so this is actually my next game in this tournament. So that was the 4th round of the Budapest tournament. This is the 5th round of the Budapest 2019 tournament. Well, yeah. Do you remember this one, Auntie? Do you remember this one? This one. So I played Dominic Bovis, who's a strong 6-dan. I'm white. Dominic played his Sanrensei. I invaded some stuff. This is not too important, but okay. I don't know. We played a game of Go. So okay, here you're going. This game is legendary, or deserves to be. yeah. This game. I mean, but the thing is, in retrospect, you can very easily say that, oh, your opponent is like really playing badly, but the point is, you also have to do your bit, right? So I have to say that, to be quite honest, I'm good at this. Like, this is a strength of mine, to mess up the game in the second half if I'm losing. And sometimes if you keep questioning your opponent and you keep giving him things to worry about, he makes weird mistakes. So, you know, if you put a lot of pressure on an opponent who's winning, they can crumble. So, okay. We arrived to the point of the game where I screwed up. So, here I have like 30 minutes on the clock. And I played this move. I played K2. And K2 has a lot of reading behind it, which I've forgotten. But I spent a long time on this. Like, by the time the sequence here ended, I was nearly in Byoyomi. Whereas before I, had quite some time. Black played here. So this is like asking Black, do you want to give me some points? So Black is like, no. I want to keep everything. And I was, and here I thought I read everything. I really thought I did. So I exchanged a5 Vincente, and I'm like, haha. Haha, haha. And I thought I read this out. I actually thought I had completely read out the Liberty Race. Which is, I mean, of course I didn't, right? I can't read every move, but I thought I was winning. And I read some variations where I thought I'm doing well. And then just a few moves later, like here. So now that I've killed all my... So, if we go from this position, now that I've killed my endgame here, my endgame here, and my, like, I've just messed everything up. I've killed my Aji on the outside. Now I realize that I'm losing the Liberty Race by 1. And I was like, oh, that didn't work. So I just died inside. I mean, this is a very, very bad position, I think. And I mean, I think most people would play on because it's move 81. But yeah, this position's absolutely terrible. Okay, so let's... I mean, for the moment, I was trying to think of, like, sources of uncertainty, and I could think of a few, right? One of the ones I could think of was this move, because Black is actually not alive with the entire group. So after, Black plays something like this, then, to connect, because we don't want a code to happen, Black's entire group isn't alive. Now, Black's group is completely fine. I mean, my own group isn't even alive, so these guys aren't alive. But his group isn't alive. So that's uncertainty, right? That's exactly the point. That's some stuff that may become useful in the future. With K2, you basically already committed to a game where probably someone will be ahead by 25 plus points. Well, K2 could end in some compromise, right? So in Go, often you find unexpected ways to compromise. Maybe a Seki will happen. Maybe, after K2 I will... Maybe after K2 I will crosscut here and, like, get this endgame instead, which would be not good, but it would be fine, like, compared to what happened in the game. So, there's many points at which I could have broken it off. And, even here, if at this point I just play this move, and I make a Semedori, like, where I force Black to play inside his own territory to, like, capture my stone, that's also not terrible. Like, the really bad part is that I just died inside, like, without needing to. But okay, we get to this stage, and I have to think of ways to start uncertainty. And I think, in the short term, I didn't see anything super, like, urgent. I mean, the good thing is that Black, Black can't really... If Black makes 2 eyes here, there's still this weakness. Whereas if black fixes the weakness, I can just take the ice space. So I tried to play off of this uncertainty and keep black's group a little bit under pressure. And black jumps. I have to jump out. And okay, yeah, and this is an annoying move on my side. And here, so L7 is played with evil intentions. So if black goes down, now my plan was to play something like this move. And essentially try to enclose black, and again make a liberty race for my stones. So that means I'll get Sente moves on the outside. And, you know, actually, how does black kill this? This is annoying for black, because black is, as far as I can tell, enclosed. So if black plays here, I'll play this move. Yeah, that's pretty good. So the whole idea is that if black is enclosed, black's gonna have to fill in all of these points, right? So these guys. So if, you know, that's actually extra profit for me, Sente moves, etc., etc. So this move's played with pretty evil intentions. It's not just an exchange. And then black actually played here because black didn't want to get enclosed, but this is a sort of blunder on black's side. And I got to add one of the ultimate forms of uncertainty, which is K1 here, and then this ko. And this ko is kind of insane. I mean, if black plays here, I mean, I'm just gonna kill, or I mean, I'm gonna cut you off, and yeah, you're in trouble. So black actually, to an extent, has to fight this ko. And I mean, the more challenging move for black would just be to play here, because you don't fix the ko for white. You're gonna, and I forget what I was reading here, so I'm not. This one looks maybe okay for black, but the point is that this ko is a mess. Again, a mess. That's what I want. It's adding uncertainty. And I think he probably missed this ko, because it just looks like it's weird to play a ko here, but it actually ended up working out relatively well for me. Keep in mind, I'm probably still behind by 20 points or so at this stage of the game. So we played a ko, and eventually, if I remember correctly, okay, so this is what happened. So what happened is that I cut in the middle, and I traded one ko for another. The point now is that black has this cutting point at d9, and additionally, black has some issues living locally. So what happened is that black lives, but then I can start the ko at d9. So this just ends up being a mess. So, and already here, I'm super happy. I'm still much worse. I'm still much, much worse. I mean, you know, this ko has been very expensive for me. I've damaged my corner significantly. And the center ko, I still don't know how much that will get me. But the point is that black also still doesn't know how much it will get me. So very quickly, I've managed to create a very uncertain position. And this is already, you know, a nice thing for white. Now, I was so badly behind after the sequence on the lower side that this doesn't really help me. There's still a long road to recovery on this one. But yeah, at least... Okay, so eventually what happened is that I didn't find a very big ko threat for the moment, and I just played p1, black connected, here, here, here. And we get to this position where already activating these very uncertain kos has gotten me quite some profits. So this, I've gotten these moves in Sente, I've protected my corner again, and I'm probably going to succeed in, you know, eventually I'm going to play like here, and again it's this thing where black has to fill the liberties of my inside group. These shapes, yeah, yeah, so these shapes, there's... black has an almost obscene amount of B2 bombers in these shapes. So, yeah, but anyway. And black's winning. Black has terrible shapes, so black's winning. Taking bets which black group do you think will die? Yeah, so this game something, yeah. So at this point, I'm actually still behind, and I think this is a good moment to like count and see how much white has gotten. Because clearly white has gotten something from the point in the game where I just died with everything. D16 group kappa. I mean, you'll see what happened. Upper left looks promising indeed. Yeah. You'll see what happened. We are in the presence of a master. I mean, let me guess, B17 invasion later. Yeah, you're along the right lines. So, I mean, at this point, I think we're both in Byoyomi, though Black is only more recently in Byoyomi. And one thing about Dominic Bovis is that his Byoyomi skills are questionable. Like, I think he's actually a pretty strong player, very solid player, but he doesn't do so well in Byoyomi. So, at this point, it's like November 2019. I'm already like a much more measured player than I have been in the past. But in this second half, I got to go a little bit crazy, which, like I said, to me is liberating. So okay. So let's take a quick count though. So on the lower side we have like 30 points for Black, because Black may need to actually fill these liberties in later. So it's only like 30. Then it's like 5 on the left side, 5 on the right side, and this adds up to about 40 points, plus 15 in the corner. I think we can count after this line, because it may be natural to expect this exchange later. So, okay. So it's like 15 plus 10 plus 30, which is, about 55 points. White, conversely, doesn't have that many points. I think we can agree. So White has not really anything on the left side, because there's still Agi for Black to play B13 or D14. It's really hard to count any points there, really. White has about 10 points on the lower side, and that's it, sort of. Like, White has some intangible strength, but no points. Like, none. 0. So, I mean, of course, my strength is worth quite a bit. So this Ponuki in the center is pretty strong. This group is pretty strong. And I'm going to make something off of that. But at the moment, including Komi, I have like 20 solid points. So I'm behind by 35 solid points. And yeah, I think if you put this into a computer, you're losing by like, I'm going to guess 20 points still. 15, 20 points. Because White actually isn't that strong. It's not like White's influence is amazing. So it's a pretty bad game. Still pretty hopeless. But okay. I played R8 because it's big. Black doesn't want me to pincer R12. And okay, I played H17. The idea of H17 is just to, I don't know, just get this exchange which is profitable. And I think my plan at the time was to just play here and then, try and make enough points in the center to scrape out a win. That was my plan. It's a very, like, lackluster plan. Now, one thing I want to mention here is that at this stage of the game, I don't know if you people can see anything. I don't see any uncertainties on the board. Like, not that many. There's some uncertainty around how many points White is going to make in the center, but that isn't scary for Black. Like, Black isn't saying, oh, I'm really, really, really scared that if White adds one more move, and then White adds another one more move, then White's going to make, 15 extra points in the center. That's not the kind of uncertainty that makes you worry about losing the game when you're 35 points up in solid points. And so at the moment, what I was doing was kind of waiting. It is also uncertain how many points Black gets in the top left corner. It's not really uncertain. I mean, incidentally, Black shouldn't play at H16. Shouldn't Black play at H16? Yeah, okay, Black should, but let's say that I think eventually Black is going to have to come back, or Black should come back. What happened in the game is that Black increased uncertainty. So, Black, I think maybe the arguably correct thing to do is to... the arguably correct thing may still be to block G18, because G18 is really big. I'd actually block at G18, not G17's of ODS, personally. So black could just push and defend, and that's actually a very nice way to play the game when you're ahead. So when you're ahead, you want to reduce uncertainty within reason. So, like, you shouldn't play super slack because then you'll lose your lead. But if you have two paths, you can choose the one that leads to the more certain position, right? And in my mind, black made a really big mistake here from this point of view. Black played this attachment. So what this attachment is doing is, oh, I don't want you to make any points. So like this, and then black is thinking, oh, white's gonna get this move or something, and then making something in the center, which is, in my opinion, kind of weird because it's not like this is open on two sides. Black can still play here, and black can still play here. So black's decision is really weird. So black plays K15, and this starts to give some certainty, some uncertainty, because previously black had the opportunity. I mean, okay, we can quibble over G18 or G17, right? But either move results in that black is clearly ahead with lots of certainty on the board. Like, black doesn't have anything big to worry about. No weak, dying groups. Black's just strong everywhere, and white has to, like, pray that black sucks at endgame, right? So, really sucks at endgame. So, okay. When black plays here, suddenly the uncertainty starts to go up, because I'm like, ha ha ha, your base. My points, right? And then black actually, I think, spent, okay, it's a couple of center moves, and black actually attached here, and the reason is that if black plays here, I think, he may have been scared that I play this move and try to keep everything. So black sort of tried to poke at my weaknesses, and accidentally made it worse. I mean, this was terrible. Okay, this is terrible from black. Black has to pull back at some point. Because... But, I mean, even if black pulls back, this is already a huge success for white. Maybe I don't even play here, maybe I just jump, or maybe I even tenuki. The point is that the center was empty, so by reducing the top side, I'm already getting a great success, generally speaking. And after black played here, again, 20-second Byoyomi. This tournament was a nightmare in terms of Byoyomi. No, he is not 100% alive anymore. Yeah. So, if... I think what black was aiming for was that my own group on the left side is really not doing well. You know, if black cuts, I think black was probably reading that if he cuts here, he can kill me, which is not true, but that may have been what he was reading. That's my guess. So okay. But the point is that black created so much uncertainty. This wasn't even me. Like, okay, I used the uncertainty, because now black isn't alive, white has the points and black doesn't. Black kind of has to try and prove that this cutting point matters. And suddenly the game has switched from that black is clearly much better still to that the game is just a mess. Right? And this is what white wants. And if we speed forward a little bit further, then... Great theme, yeah, the thing, uncertainty, I think, is a super important term. Because in Go, unfortunately, we don't know everything. And whenever we don't know something, people will do stuff wrong. Like, uncertainty is where people make mistakes. And that's why, when you're behind, you have to increase the level of uncertainty as much as you possibly can. Within reason. So... if you increase uncertainty, if you get situations that are uncertain, then the player's lead doesn't matter, because the player's emotions kick in, people want to be safe, especially when they're winning, and, you know, etc. So, in the end, this is already a great position. I don't want to check this in too much detail. If we keep speeding forward, what ended up happening was that black messed up the Sumego on the left side, so I lived. I mean, that's also another uncertainty, right? We're in 20-second Byoyomi, is the left side group alive? So I read this correctly and he didn't. And so I ended up living, and then suddenly I actually kind of went for the jugular on black's group, and black ended up having to play a Ko. So, I mean, if I told you that this group is about to play a Ko for its life in like 20 moves, you wouldn't believe me. But point being that, and you know, these are very strong players. Both of these players were and still are higher rated than me. They're better players than me. Wait, actually, is Dominic? Okay, Dominic and I are rated very similarly now. But okay. Point being, these guys are really good. But sometimes uncertainty gets overpowering, especially in Byoyomi. And I want to use this sort of as a way to demonstrate that no matter how, like, you know, no matter how high the level is, you know, and it's not like we're the pinnacle of Go, but we you know, we're okay. No matter how good you are, games can still be turned around. And, you know, I've just shown a couple of really desperate games that I turned around by looking for problems from my opponent, looking for things that my opponent has to worry about. And I actually think that I did quite well in both of these games. Fittingly, this game got me a promotion to 6th Dan, which was cool. So, you know, if we look towards the very end, Black had to fight a Ko for his group. And at the very, very end, I'm not sure how many people expected this. I lost the Ko on the top left in order to kill Black on the right side. So that's how the game ended. So yeah. And that was an interesting turn of events for sure. But okay. It's actually it's a pity that Then there's this recent gem from the Grand Prix. Actually, I had a long list of games I wanted to talk about, so my next game was the game that you're linking against Ben Zero, where I think I actually played that second half very well. I played the first half terribly. Like, one thing that is, like, I played this game... I played... most of these games I actually didn't play that well. Like, somehow, for example, this day, I played both of the games that I've gone through in the same day. I probably didn't play that well. But the point is that if I can get wins, even in the most dire of positions, I'll suddenly get lots of wins. So, you know, it doesn't matter how dirty the game was. If I win, I win. That's what happens. And it's unfortunate that the lecture, like, that I went through the games more slowly than I expected, because I would really have wanted to show some... like, I wanted to show some... examples where I have done something wrong relative to uncertainty, because while I think I'm very good at playing from behind, like, I think I'm very good at playing from behind still. I've habits that go back to when I was a crazy 5-dan player who only did reading Go. I'm still not very proficient at playing from ahead, and I actually had collected a couple of games where I actually did the opposite. Like, because I understand how uncertainty is the way that you lose games, I overcompensated and got a lot of situations where I decreased uncertainty to the detriment of my position and ended up losing. So it's interesting that it's unfortunate I didn't get to those, because those are also important, right? When you're winning, you need to reduce uncertainty within reason, being the key term. But unfortunately, we're not going to get time for that. But yeah, it's making 6-dan checklists, play terribly for the first 100 moves, and then make some chaos. I mean, the point is, to be a really strong player, you need to figure out that your opponents aren't as strong as you think they are. Like, if you test your opponents, they're going to mess up. Often. And you might mess up as well in complicated positions, but especially if you're losing, that doesn't matter, right? So testing your opponents is a very important thing to do when you're behind. Some people play like that anyway, right? I don't play like that now. I play too nice these days. But I try and keep in my mind that, especially when people are short on time, and especially when there's no other alternative, you have to assume that your opponent can't deal with things. And, if you find a situation where there's uncertainty, where you don't know what's happening on the board, where it's really complicated, you can go for it. And sometimes it'll work. So, and you'll be surprised, right? And I just wanted to show these games to maybe, demonstrate. I mean, these positions are completely lost, and you can actually still win them. So no matter how bad you think the game is, usually the game is still winnable. So... Yeah, thriving in chaos. So I also like to be behind 20 points and then get a 40-point swing, mess up in the early game to get pressure, which starts your brain to work. I mean, that kind of game's very fun to play. I've had a lot of fun playing this type of game. It's kind of interesting how little it feels like the opening matters unless you're a top pro after seeing these. Even top pros, I don't think it matters that much. Maybe the very, very top pros, but I see some professional games with huge swings. Like, Go is a game with huge swing potential. And if you see games where, especially when professionals are already getting into Byoyomi, the swing potential is still really, really big. I mean, professionals are really good, but still, Go is just that type of game. So, it's very, very dynamic game in that sense. And you can like, it's very easy to make fun of this type of game because it's a very like messy game where obviously people are making lots of mistakes. But if you try playing these positions for yourself, you'll see that they're kind of complicated, and it's hard to play well. And that's hopefully what you want to get your opponent in, I think. But okay. Byoyomi is usually longer though for professionals, that's true. I would need to see more data before I would make a statement like that. We can always cherry pick games that swung, but if a 5-point opening deficit leads to a loss 70% of the time, then it does matter. Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying it doesn't matter. I mean, in my games, it also matters whether you're ahead or not. I'm saying it matters less than you think it does. So that's maybe the thought I'll leave you with. I saw a game with 2 top pros where one resigned in a 1 position. Wow, I didn't know about that. But okay, this is a good place maybe to end the stream. And it's a pity I didn't get to more because this is actually a great topic. I think, to be quite honest, if I do a lecture again on the Nordic Dojo, well, of course I will. I hope I will, but when I do, I'm very tempted to make a lecture on like losing 1 positions. And I'm going to show some of the things you can do wrong on the winning side of this. And I have a lot of experience with that because that's a problem of mine. So, okay. Next lecture, how not to blunder 1 position. Yeah, probably. I'll actually do that because I have material left over from this lecture that I really want to get to that I think is very important as well. So, yeah. Thanks. Yeah, thank you to everyone who watched. That was really a pleasure. I can say I'm 10 out of 10 at losing 1 positions. Not a bad idea to continue the theme. Yeah. So, thank you very much for watching. Thanks for being such a, interactive audience and stuff like that. And, I don't know. The Nordic Dojo will be live in 2 weeks. It might not be me doing the lecture, it might be someone else, but yeah, I hope you're there to, if you find the lectures helpful. And yeah, other than that, I'll see you people around. Thanks for watching.